12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Some people would say that 17 books is too many to purchase while on vacation. And to those people, I would say, nuh-uh. Having just had a birthday, I am no longer a blushing ingenue of 30, but rather a slightly older and slightly wiser young woman of 31. And being wiser than ever before, I now know that when I go on vacation somewhere, I need to bring an empty duffel bag packed into my suitcase to absorb the inevitable overflow of the things that I will buy while on vacation. The things that I buy being, of course, stacks of books. I'm very excited about this stack of books because this stack of books represents not only my souvenirs from a very enjoyable vacation, not only my new TBR, but this stack of books is kind of conceptually, to me, representative of the way I get to read now. Because as many of you who are watching this probably know, back in the fall, I finished my PhD in English literature. And one of the things that that means is that for the first time, really since I was 18, I don't have to read, kind of full stop, but I don't have to read for work. There's no deadlines or responsibilities or stresses attached to my reading. I can read whatever I want, whenever I want. And at first, after I finished my PhD, it turned out that what I wanted to read was nothing. I didn't read a single book for 3 months. And I felt guilty about it at first before remembering that it doesn't matter because there's no consequences now if I don't feel like I have the brain capacity for reading. But now I've emerged out on the other end of that reading slump, and I'm just really excited to be able to read more and more broadly for pleasure than I ever have as an adult, really. I'm so excited about every single book on this stack, so let's talk about them all. I'll start with the ones that I have either already started or already finished reading. This book, Two-Way Mirror by Fiona Sampson, is a biography of the poet Elizabeth Barrett Browning. In my most recent video here on YouTube, I was talking about descriptions of love in 19th century literature, and I referenced Elizabeth Barrett Browning. And after making that video, I was thinking about how I have such fond feelings towards Elizabeth Barrett Browning, but how I actually only know the surface level about her life. And so when I was in London, I was in Foyles, which is just this 5-story utopia, Candyland of books. And I saw a section on literary biography. So I picked up 2 different Elizabeth Barrett Browning biographies. One of them I flipped through, boring as hell. This one I picked up, started flipping through, and I really liked Fiona Sampson's voice in it. So I picked it up and I've been reading through it and I'm really enjoying it. I'm gonna read through one of the passages in the first couple pages that really stuck out to me and was one of the reasons that I did buy this book. Writers' bodies create resistances, forcing interplay between self and world. Elizabeth Barrett Browning turned 12 in 1818, the year that Frankenstein's creature first found out how deeply the wearer of a body can be changed by what happens to it. And perhaps it's no accident that he is the creation of another woman writer. There are so many reasons why women may find that their bodies define their lives to a greater extent than do men's, that it's surely no surprise if they choose to write about embodiment. I really appreciate that even though this is a biography of a historical literary figure, it doesn't at all read like just a list of dates and events. And there's no attempt to kind of make the biographer's voice or perspective disappear and claim objectivity. I like the way that Fiona Sampson is characterizing Elizabeth Barrett Browning. I like the way that she is contextualizing her life and her work. All around, I'm liking the book. I'm only a little bit of the way through. I'm kind of reading it just a few pages at a time with my morning coffee, but I'm really looking forward to spending some more time with it. Next on the stack, we have this book, Claudine Married by Colette. This is another one that I started reading while in London, but I only got a little bit of the way through so far because I was just reading it while out to lunch, and as soon as the dumplings came, I got distracted and stopped reading and started eating dumplings. This one, to be very honest, I bought almost exclusively because I read the author bio and I was completely sold on it from that. According to this bio, Colette was born in Burgundy in 1873 and educated at the local village school. At the age of 20, she moved to Paris with her first husband, the notorious writer and critic Henri Gautier-Villers. By locking her in her room, he forced Colette to write her first novels, the Claudine sequence, which he published under his name. They were an instant success. She left him in 1906 and worked in music halls as an actor and dancer. She had a love affair with Napoleon's niece, married twice more, and had a baby at 40 and at 47. Her writings, which included novels, portraits, essays, and a large body of autobiographical prose, were admired by Proust and Gide. She was the first woman president of the Académie Goncourt, and when she died, aged 81, she was given a state funeral and buried in Père Lachaise. I read that bio, and I said to myself, I would like to read things that woman has written. And so I bought this book. I didn't realize when buying it that this was a book that fell kind of in the middle of a series of books about this character, Claudine. So far, it's not a problem for me in reading through it that I'm kind of plunked down in the middle of her life. I don't think that I'm really missing anything from not having read the first ones in the series, but we'll see. Maybe it will end up being confusing later on, or maybe I will just keep reading this and love it so much that I will have to double back and read all the ones that came before it. I look forward to finding out. Next up on the stack is a book that I have already read in its entirety. I started reading this one night in London, and then I stayed up until like 2 o'clock in the morning finishing it. This book is called Three Women. It bummed me out. Did I like it? I don't know. But I couldn't stop reading it. But it made me feel bad. But making me feel something is kind of a sign of good writing. This is a nonfiction book, and as you might guess from the title, it is about 3 women. The 3 women whose lives it is about are not in any way connected to each other. Their lives don't intersect, but the book kind of puts them all next to each other so that you can see the through lines between them. It's kind of skips around between the 3 of them. It's not part 1 is one woman, part 2 is woman 2. It goes in between all of them. And the thing that narratively connects these 3 women's lives, I would say, is sexual trauma. I didn't find this book to be gratuitous. I didn't feel that it was going for shock value in the way it was describing and depicting these things. If you are a reader who is sensitive to descriptions of sexual trauma, I would definitely recommend avoiding this. I definitely avoid books that have like descriptive scenes of sexual violence. This was not that. It just was kind of direct in explaining a couple of things that happened to these women and the long-term effects that it had on their lives. So I didn't struggle with it in terms of it feeling traumatizing to read. I just struggled with it because it made me sad, and I'm gonna put it over there now. Now, the next two books on the stack are two plays that I picked up copies of in London and skimmed through while there because I was going to see performances of these two plays, which are Electra and Cymbeline. Electra is one of those books that I'm not even sure if I have read it before for an undergrad class or something, or if I was just deeply aware of the plot and the text, that it was just like in my brain as a result of studying literature, but it did feel familiar as I was reading through it. I enjoyed reading it well enough. I enjoyed seeing the play. It wasn't exactly my thing. Time spent engaging with the arts is never time wasted, so I'm glad I went to see the play. I wish they had spent less time yelling at me with microphone feedback during the play, but you can't always get what you want. And so sometimes what you get is to have Brie Larson yell at you with a lot of microphone feedback. And that's fine. Cymbeline, it was also my first time reading the entire play. I'm an early modernist, not a Shakespearean, which means it's okay that I haven't read all the Shakespeare plays. And Cymbeline is one that I had definitely read or seen in performance, a couple of scenes, you know, the bedroom guy sneaking out of a chest in order to spy on the sleeping naked woman scene. That one I knew pretty well, but the rest of the play was newer to me. And so that was definitely fun for me to read a Shakespeare text for the first time, disconnected from academic responsibility, and then to go see in performance a play that I'm not super familiar with. That is always a fun experience, because if I'm going to see a performance of a play that I know front and back, Macbeth, Titus Andronicus, you know, there's going to be certain things that I am really attentively looking for. There's going to be certain scenes that I have strong feelings about what that scene means and how I would like to see it performed, or if it's performed in a totally new way, I start thinking analytically about, oh my God, all these things that it means for the play as a whole. But with a play that I'm not as familiar with, like Cymbeline, I get to just kind of go and just be entertained and just watch a performance. This performance of Cymbeline also was at the indoor candlelight only stage at the Globe. I've been there a few times before, very fortunately, and I love it in there. So it's just always nice to be in that room and to see a staging of a play in that setting. So that was really fun. Next up on the list, I have 3 works of classic literature that I have never read before. So I'm really excited to read them now and kind of continue my literary education, even though I'm no longer a literature student officially within academia. We have The House on Mango Street. I am excited to read this partly because I have read, honestly, very little classic American literature, which is a gap, and I am excited to start filling in that gap. I have also purchased The Waves by Virginia Woolf. Honestly, I bought this book mostly because I was shopping in a bookshop contained within a canal barge, the Book Barge, and it felt very appropriate to buy a book called The Waves while browsing, while kind of bobbing and getting my sea legs as the boat moved around, as people were boarding and disembarking. And then I bought Dead Souls, because sometimes what you need in the cold, rainy end days of winter is to feel cold and rainy on the inside as well. And that's what Russian literature is for. Oh, interesting. I just opened up to the first page, which has a chronology of Gogol's life that says that he was born in Ukraine, just like my grandmother. Because grad school for literature, well, grad school for everything, is so specialized, even though I spent the past 7 years of my life studying literature, I was working in such a narrow field, in order to write a dissertation on early modern English drama. I'm really just spending years and years tunneling down deeper into a narrow section of the field in literature rather than reading broadly the great literary works. And so that is something that I am looking forward to being able to do now that I am no longer dedicating all of my intensive reading energies towards one field. Buying this book was a no-brainer as soon as I saw it, Mary, or The Birth of Frankenstein. This is a novel about my beloved Mary Shelley, Mary Gordon at the time, and her experience of writing Frankenstein. Because this book is about the process of conceptualizing and writing Frankenstein, I am considering waiting until June to read it and staying up all night on the night of June 15th, leading into June 16th, which is the night when Mary Gordon, asleep on the shores of Lake Geneva, was awakened from a nightmare that gave her the idea that would turn into Frankenstein. I am considering staying up all night on that night, reading this book, thinking about the intervening years, separating me and Mary Shelley, but knowing that at this exact moment in 1816 and in 2025, we were both awake and thinking of Frankenstein. Is that too insane? Maybe. Am I going to do it anyway? Maybe. The next book on the list, I will admit, drew me in partly because the title includes Frankenstein in it. This book has nothing actually to do with Frankenstein, but loving Frankenstein as I do, just a reference to it is enough to at least get me interested in a book. Why did I end up deciding to buy this book? Why does anyone do anything? I don't know. I just bought it, and now I'm gonna read it. This book, in contrast, I know exactly why I bought. It's for two reasons. Number one, cat. On the front cover, there's a cat on the front cover. That was enough for me to pick it up. And number two, the premise seemed interesting. This is a book originally written in Japanese, translated obviously into English for me to read, about a cafe where when you go there, they serve you coffee, you drink the coffee, and you can travel back in time, but you have to come back to the present before the coffee turns cold. That just seems cool to me. Sometimes I buy books for very superficial, meaningless reasons. There's a lot to read out there. I can't be spending my time poring over every detail of an author in a book trying to decide if it's worth my time. It's probably worth my time. It's a book. Might as well read it. Next book on my stack, I did have a very clear reason for purchasing because it's a cannibalism book. And I'm the cannibalism girl, so I have to read it. And not only is it a cannibalism book, it's a cannibalism and hospitality book. Margot and Mama have lived by the forest since Margot can remember. When Margot isn't at school, they spend quiet days together in their cottage, waiting for strangers to knock on their door. Strays, Mama calls them. Mama loves the strays. She feeds them wine, keeps them warm, then she satisfies her burning appetite by picking apart their bodies. I literally wrote my doctoral dissertation on dysfunction and hospitality, including when you go into somebody's house and then they eat you. I think I was legally required to buy this book. Am I going to enjoy it? Am I going to find it interesting? I have no idea, but it's a cannibalism hospitality book, so I have to read it and I will report back. I didn't particularly care that it's a signed copy, but it is also a signed copy. Maybe if I read it and absolutely fall in love with it, I will be excited to have a signed by the author copy. It also came with this free pin, and I don't really use pins, and also raw slabs of meat aren't really my personal aesthetic, but I love free stuff, so I took it. Now, as we near towards the end of the pile, mostly these are books in some way about food. I have an ongoing desire to read as many books from as many genres that are in some way about food. And so these are my new entries into that category. When I was at the British Museum, I picked up this one, the Medieval Cookbook. It is all recipes from medieval cookbooks. I am enjoying flipping through them and reading them. I am probably not going to recreate any of them. Some of them don't seem all that bad. They definitely carefully selected the more normal of the medieval recipes. I do have an ongoing irritation with the consistency with which early modern and medieval people put raisins and currants into things. I don't want my stewed meats to include raisins and currants, but that's a me problem, and I can always leave that out of the recipes if I decide to make them. So let me know if you want this channel to become a medieval cooking blog. Maybe I'll give it a try. Next up among the food books is this one, Small Fires, an Epic in the Kitchen. It is nonfiction. It is about food. I don't know anything else about it. I don't know if it's memoir. I don't know if it's a collection of disconnected essays. I don't know if it's theoretical, whether it's cultural criticism, recipes maybe. I have no idea. I do know it is a book about food, and I'm going to read it. This is the only romance novel I bought in London, Mixed Signals. It's a contemporary romance novel where she is a baker and he is also there. I myself used to be a baker. It was my job for like 3 years. And so I am pretty picky about depictions of bakers in romance novels. Sometimes you can tell that an author has just decided that it would be a cute profession for their character, and they haven't actually had any personal or professional experience or tried to learn anything about the professional experience of being a baker. So I will be looking closely at this character to see if it meets my standards. But either way, I intend to enjoy reading this romance novel because I love romance novels. Romance novels are like the frozen pizza of books. They always hit the spot, even when they're not really that good. As long as they're hot, you'll enjoy them. I didn't intend for that to be a joke about smut, but it is what it is. This book I bought once again in a 5-floor bookstore. This time it was a Waterstones. Once again, just being able to wander through 5 stories of books is an absolute delight. And in this Waterstones, there was a section of books labeled Cozy Crime. I recently read Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers, which is a cozy murder mystery book. It was the first time I had read anything in that genre. I really enjoyed it. And so I decided to pick up another cozy crime book. This one, again, food related, Lemon Meringue Pie Murder. And specifically, this is described as a mystery with recipes, which makes me expect that interspersed within this murder mystery, there are just going to be some recipes sprinkled throughout. I love that. Can't wait to read it. Last but not least of my London book purchases is another crime novel. This one is called Coq au vin, and I definitely at first picked it up thinking that this might also be kind of a food-based crime novel. It doesn't seem to be. It seems to be a Paris-based crime novel, which also works for me. The book is set in Paris. The love interest is a jazz musician. It's nice and short. I'm going to wait for a nice, really rainy night. I'm going to pour myself a nice heavy pour of red wine. I'm going to get all settled into the couch, and I'm going to read this book in one sitting, and I expect it to be a really enjoyable evening. It might actually be this evening if those clouds bear out their promise. And so there it is. Everything I bought in bookstores in London. Honestly, looking at it now, I think I was pretty restrained. I should have got more books.